sociocultural or political analysis to arm you with some new facts, some new analyses, some new formulas to better facilitate your life such that you get your eyes on the prize and find your fulfillment. Today's topic, we are going to talk all about... Oh, let me get that out of frame there. We are going to talk all about International fucking Cope Month. Holy shit, dude. Maybe it's just my algorithm because it's extremely chaotic and sensitive. If you interact with one thing from one sort of corner or neighborhood of the internet or current feud or something, you... Why am I hearing this? There we go. You comment on one thing and suddenly it's all over your feed, but that still gives you the premise or understanding that there's a whole lot of fucking classical cope theory going on. When you look for it, you know it's there. You know it is embedded in the natural behaviors of every insufferable fucking dork ever. But it's really bad this week, so we're going to talk all about that. Before we begin, I want to remind you to like, subscribe, retweet, follow, get your Marchese maxing in. That's how you get big. That's how you get huge. If you like, retweet, subscribe, and everything, your deadlift instantly becomes 405. So what choice do you have there? Marchese maxing is the panacea. If you would like to send a super chat, head on over to entropystream.live/Marchese Methods. If you would like one-on-one coaching, you can head on over to marchesemethods.com. I can do one session for you at a time or 4 sessions up front for a discount. And you can also DM or email me, marchesemethods@proton.me, for access to my Discord for $5 a month. You could text me, talk to me all day, every day, 24/7. I, of course, won't respond 24/7, but I will nevertheless provide you with any sort of answers or advice or companionship that you may need. Saying that makes me think about this thought I've been having that I want to tweet out about how one of the skepticisms of like therapy or based therapy or coaching and all of that is that people sort of think it doesn't count per se if you go to sort of essentially have a friend. And I can understand that concept because if somebody is your friend, it sort of happens naturally. There doesn't have to be a payment or a medium of transaction for you to be able to interact. Let me just check somebody's commenting here. I want to make sure that I'm paying attention here. I got to sort myself out here, figuring out how to do multiple things at once. Now, well, I'll say this. On some level, yeah, you kind of are paying somebody to be your friend, but that's just the nature of anything. The nature of anything at some point, you know, otherwise you might not have met me or met the therapist. And so in a way, yeah, you kind of are paying them to be your friend, but there's nothing inherently wrong with that because that payment does not negate the natural psychosocial relationship that does develop, rapport, and it still is functionally the same thing as a friendship. You just happen to meet by this way, and that sort of has to happen for it to be in the context of the therapy. What's more, if you're paying a therapist to be your friend, that means that it's because the therapist is essentially a professional friend. And that is something that's needed in the world. That is a general thing that's needed. We all need our friends, but we also sort of need that, or we need some professional help making friends in some cases. So all that's to say there's no shame in that. There's no inauthenticity in that. Sometimes you do just need to exercise that with somebody under that context, such that you're able to go out and proliferate and prosper and make as many friends as you want and or need. So those are some thoughts there. I'll also give you some thoughts. Please excuse me, I was on a hiatus, so if you're here from Rumble or YouTube and you're not really familiar with my X, you kind of operate on one platform essentially at a time, please excuse my hiatus here. I decided to, in the wake of International Women's fucking Cope Week, we had this Allie Beth Stuckey lecture about porn, and then we had women lecturing men, essentially saying, men used to fight and die in war. Like, really? This insufferable thing where people hyper-focus and hyper-vigilate on one of the many pillars or one of the many stars in the constellation of masculinity. In this men used to fight wars example, they are completely investing in this emotional resilience tough guyism. Because what's the premise of that? The premise of that is courage and tough guyism of, oh, I can withstand the emotional torture of my friends getting blown up in front of my face. And it's like, yeah, okay, at what point do we need to relax on exercising our emotional resilience? At some point, it has to be pursuant to something, not just exercising it in and of itself. And if you are to exercise emotional resilience in and of itself, you can literally get too linear such that you're watching your friends blow up for the sake of fucking women on Twitter telling you you're a pussy otherwise. No, actually, we don't need to do that because then somebody fucking dies and they don't exist anymore. Did everyone forget the part where when you die, like you don't exist anymore? It's not like you die or your friend dies and then they're like watching the rest of the fucking movie. They die. They don't exist anymore. So we can't like just throw our lives away for, you know what it is, Jewish wars, Jewish foreign regime change wars for the sake of fucking women on Twitter. And that's the other element to it is, are we neglecting the star in the constellation of masculinity that is the balls to stand by your own values, the balls to answer to yourself, not to other people? You know, that's the joke about the military. The joke is like, sir, yes, sir, I'll bend over for you, sir. Like, that's the joke. That obsequious subordination that's actually not masculine, even if it's under the guise of, well, I'm not triggered. I'm not hurt feelings that my sergeant wants to fuck me in the ass. So anyway, I'm speaking extemporaneously here. I didn't have too much of a plan for our show here, so I'm just going to ramble off some of my thoughts here, but I'm sure you'll pick up on the theme. So all that's to say that I had a hiatus because it was International fucking Women's Coping Week, Women's International Retard Cycle lined up. You know, women sometimes their menstrual cycles like up, their retard cycle lined up that week. And so I said, let me give the final solution to this fucking porn question, because it is insufferable what a demonstrable example or what a demonstration it is in the dichotomy between penis envy and castration anxiety. And I won't go into too much detail because it was a huge piece. It was 15,000 or so words. I actually ran out of space on the Twitter article feature, so I didn't have to sacrifice too much of my conclusion there. But yeah, there was a lot to that. So that's why I went on hiatus. That's all that to say. So, but I'm sure that sounds like cope anyway. I'm sure that sounds like brown-eyed Italian, lazy Mediterranean cope. So that was my hiatus. Now, this week, it's International fucking Cope overall, Classical Cope Theory Month, because there's a couple of themes here, and it's always fucking revolving around masculinity. There is this fundamental, grounded problem, especially on the right, of half-measuring masculinity and giving yourself credit for the full measure. Performative masculinity, some people are calling it, but it functionally is, the workout thing is the perfect example. Oh, let me half-ass workout 3 times a week for 20 minutes, and since that's linearly, marginally better than the lazy fat libtard or something, therefore I'm a supreme, disciplined, alpha, tough, masculine bro who, you know, has the fucking balls to answer to myself and all that. Like, no, you actually don't, because you're half-measuring and you're fucking coping, and 80% of your behavior is still indulgent and still subordinate and still answering to your fucking pleasure principle. And this was evident in this copery about, essentially, it was blowing up that this fucking dork, this mediocre physique dork was like, being right-wing and not being jacked is freaking cringe, bro. And it was like, dude was like 120 pounds. half-ass mediocre fucking lean, skinny abs, that type of thing. And it most certainly was. Hopefully my audio here is good. Experimenting with it, having it a little bit here, but maybe I should have it a little closer. So that is, and it's crazy because I feel like I have to repeat, like I'm repeating myself. Some of you guys watch me pretty consistently, so excuse me if this is trite by now for you. Excuse me if you get it, essentially, but perhaps it'll be nice to refresh on it or just hear it in different terms. This stuff is so insufferable, low IQ, and so bitchy. Let's just rewind and pause for a second. Remember when you were first becoming right-wing or something like that? What did we all feel from the very beginning? What did we all feel from the very beginning of adolescence of what it meant to be masculine and what it meant to be right-wing? At its core, specifically, is discipline. But what is discipline? Discipline is not fucking yes sir, no sir to your faggot fucking Sergeant Faggot Pants. Discipline is answering to yourself, answering to your moral mandate, answering to your goals, your ambitions, in spite of whether or not you feel like it. Feeling like it, your feelings, your pleasures, your displeasures will all betray you and signal to your mind to do things pursuant to them at the expense of your goals, at the expense of your ambitions. So working out, weightlifting, is the foundation for this because those instincts come from the foundational survival instinct in your fucking amygdala, brainstem. Remember The Walking Dead, how the zombies, their brainstem was the only part active in their brain? So they were like, duh, doy, and all they knew how to do is eat. That's fucking you without working out. So that instinct, those instincts, what are they about? Eating, fucking cooming, and optimizing energy. Taking in more energy than you put out. That is like the foundational, most powerful survival instinct in your mind. Because it's urgent, it's imminent. It has to be there. It had to be there thousands of years ago to keep us alive. Because otherwise, if that wasn't there, there wouldn't always be something bulwarking your tendency to put out more energy than you take in, and eventually you run out. You die of starvation. You run out of calories. But that instinct betrays us. Survival betrays you. Survival betrays you in the modern context, and it also even betrayed you way back. Way back, we didn't really have a choice. We had to at least be active. But now we have the chance to truly, authentically, fully exercise our sovereignty over that instinct. And we do that by way of weightlifting. Because weightlifting does a handful of things. Firstly, just in terms of the low IQ determinism and biology here, weightlifting is not just the output of energy, but the need to put on more muscle, which is increasing your basal metabolic rate, so essentially making you burn more calories existing. So this is like the least efficient thing. This is the most antithetical thing to that survivalist instinct. And it is the only way to beat it. It is the only way to beat it. And why is this important? This is important because when you exercise sovereignty like that, when you exercise free will agency, that is what it means to be masculine. This, of course, belongs to women too, but it means something a little bit different to women. But for men, this is what it means to be actually authentically, congruently masculine. When you actually challenge yourself, when you fully immerse yourself in weightlifting such that your body aches, whatever, and it's not just hurting yourself, it's specifically the discomfort of putting out energy, the discomfort of being out of breath. That is a full, raw, authentic exercise in answering to yourself. And what does that mean for masculinity? That is leadership. That is being able to control yourself. And having that congruence means you can control your environment. You can control your impulses. You can even control your emotions. You can control everything around you. Now, isn't it remarkable, too, that this control thing, just to make sure I don't forget it, this control thing also gets abused, is also another version of people hypervigilating on one of the stars in the constellation of masculinity. Of course, in the easy way, though. And that is to say that when this Andrew Wilson thing has been floating around, when this woman insulted him, patronized him, condescended him, said, inferred essentially that his wife was a whore, he stood up to it and he said, shut the fuck up, you're a stupid dyke, whatever. And everyone lapped up the opportunity to wax how masculine they are by saying, oh, that's wrong because that's out of control and blah, blah, blah. And, oh, a real freaking man is freaking stoic. And it's like, no, actually, how does that even make sense? What, are you supposed to just let people walk all over you all the time, every day? Sometimes you have to forcefully tell somebody to shut their faggy little mouth. This is every bully story. Every bully story is somebody beating somebody up until they hit back. What is that? Out of control? What is that? Oh, you have no control. You're violent. Of course, I'm not encouraging violence per se, but that's the analog. That is the emblem for this verbal version of that. If somebody punches you in the face and you punch back, what, are you a pussy for punching back? Or what, are you a pussy because, oh, what, did it hurt when somebody punched you in the face? Why couldn't you just calmly tell them to stop? Because if they hurt you, or if they punch you in the face and it hurts, you're actually a pussy, you're weak. Obviously, nobody thinks that, so it's actually the same structure interpersonally, psychologically. There is psychological warfare. And so people can rightfully stand up to that. But of course, there's this beautifully constructed cope wherein we get to say, well, I'm stoic. I'm going to be stoic and under control as an excuse to avoid conflict and as an excuse to avoid the discomfort of conflict. And this is also subordinate to fucking women because women are always crying to the hills about lack of control and how emasculine that is. Like typical fucking obsequious little pussies, you all take that seriously and you all don't detect the cope that's within that, which is this obsession and compulsion with the terror of male capability of violence or capability of aggression inflicted upon them. So they do everything they can to psyop men into taming themselves. Now, this doesn't mean that you should go beat people up or something, but that is to say that you also, the real exercise in masculinity with self-control and all that is evaluating when to stand up for yourself, when to forcefully tell somebody to shut the fuck up, and when not to. That's the uncomfortable challenge. That's what it means to be a man, is to live in that uncomfortable challenge and evaluate and assess every time. Instead of giving yourself some neat, cute, nice little bow-tied, quippy little fucking line or quippy little formula for how to behave. Because that's not how it works. That's never been how it works. Behavior is chaotic. It is complex. It exists in a nebula. It doesn't exist in a line. It doesn't exist in a square. It exists in this complex, amorphous nebula. Complex. And so this control stuff, remarkably, is just a cope to avoid conflict and to avoid decision making. And everyone loves to lap up the opportunity to wax themselves masculine, hoping she sees this, bro. Hoping she sees this online, bro. Such that she'll be enamored with you for your masculine control. Moreover, this presumes that somebody who decidedly, forcefully tells somebody to shut the fuck up, when we say that's out of control, there's an embedded axiom and premise in that. And the premise in that is the premise that it is against your best interests to do so in the first place. Not just pursuant to maintaining your masculine image, but also because there's this peanut little mammal brain thing wherein it's necessarily against your best interest to conflict with somebody or conflict with the group overall. I remember in high school, I would speak the truth. I would speak controversial opinions. And women in the vicinity would condescend or patronize or smirk about that because what was the premise? The premise was, well, you're doing that against your best interest because your best interest is to keep cohesion with the group. And if your best interest is to keep cohesion with the group because you're a fucking retard mammal brain and you're going against that, it must imply that you're incompetent. It must imply that you're stupid because it would be stupid to not follow from that premise of keeping everyone in the group cohesive and nice and playing nice. If you're operating on that axiom, you presume that if you can't infer from that axiom not to conflict from the group, then you're necessarily stupid. This is like a reasoning thing. But no, you're actually a fucking retard if your axiom, if your premise is to keep cohesion in the group. So every man who does this, control thing is also a baby fucking mammal brain bitch, subordinate to the feelings and sensibilities of the group. Being a fucking mammal brain, peanut little fucking loser. I don't actually care to offend the sensibilities of the group because even in my hunter-gatherer brain, I'm confident I can survive fucking without them. And in fact, if you're truly authentically masculine, you also transcend these feelings like you transcend these feelings in the gym, such that you pursue the later and greater truth, consequence, benefit, the later and greater aspiration. So that's the side part about this control element. So that said, we authentically exercise control by controlling ourselves. And we control ourselves by sequestering and segregating our feelings from our actions. Now, this doesn't mean feelings don't inform actions such that you do things that you want, that you love, and all of that, but this also distinguishes the authentic transcendental affection and love for something like lifting weights, like discipline, like loving that in and of itself. And this is where you have low IQ copes about the determinism, about stuff like health, and it's actually healthy. Women actually like this, women actually like that. And isn't it remarkable, embedded in the women actually like is not just subordinating authority to women, but it is presuming that women can gauge masculinity, and you're using that such that you get to transmute that or reverse engineer that to say, therefore I'm masculine enough, therefore I'm disciplined enough, therefore I don't have to work out more QED. It's always pursuant to not working out more effortfully. It's trying to say, well, getting big isn't more masculine. It actually is. Not just because of the physical, tangible consequences, but because it is only achievable by further discipline, further sequestering your impulses and feelings. That's the masculinity of getting big. It's not about the size and the shape and how strong you specifically are, how much you deadlift. It is that you more rigorously, more fervently place your feelings to the side. Place your pleasure principle to the side. You do not answer to the pleasure principle as much of these insufferable half-wit fucking mediocrities exercising 3 times a week for 20 minutes and saying, well, women like it, therefore it's masculine, therefore I'm superior, therefore I am answering to myself. And this rationale is to themselves more than anybody else. It is to their superego in their head, their conscience in their head. They're trying to rationalize the guilt away such that they can live in this perfect harmony of indulgence without guilt. But of course, that doesn't work. That never fucking works because you always have to keep rationalizing, hence the copes, hence all the cope theory. And you cannot escape yourself. You cannot escape your ideal self. You cannot escape or not answer to your actual authority within your mind. And it's so remarkable how few people can articulate or understand their own feelings within themselves about this, because it expresses through all these copes. Even just some like, roided up freak. First of all, You don't need to do roids to look like me or better. There's a number of people I know that do roids that do have this ideal physique, but isn't it remarkable? Here we go again. Here's the cope. It is having the image of a 250-pound bodybuilder in your head, knowing that that's steroids, and saying, oh, well, I don't need to look like that. And it's like, well, according to what do you even not need to look like that? Need, what does that mean? Need. Need for what? Need for what end state, end goal? I don't need that to prove to myself or to exercise the agency. You actually kind of do, in theory. You do, because that is the highest order, most linear expression of... I just thought about for a second. I don't know if I set my frame rate here, so this might be freezing all the time in the recording thereafter. Anyway. That is necessarily the more linear, like more disciplined expression, even with steroids, because what does steroids even do? Steroids just make it so that you can work out more, idiot, retard. Everyone's such a genius 5,000 IQ research optimization determinist, and they don't know the basic premise of steroids is that they essentially make your androgen receptors more receptive, which means you can just work out more, which means you can work out twice a day, or every single day at greater length or at greater fervor. And the 250-pound roid physique thing, they're also carefully allowing their minds to abuse that the image of that is the same as the image of the jack guy who's maybe 50 to 80 pounds less. So 170 to 200. I weigh between 160 and 170. Some of these retards will carefully, they deeply know that there's a fundamental difference, and they deeply know that that physique is different from my physique, or better. And my physique is achievable naturally, of course. In fact, much better than my physique is achievable naturally. But since they vaguely look similar, just scaled a little bit down, they try to say that their excuse for the steroid not looking like the steroid guy transmutes to an excuse to not look like me or better. So that's like cope number one. Cope number two about that. You're still betraying the premise of actually seriously weightlift. You are still overlooking that it has nothing to do with the exact specific tangible physique that you have. It is about exercising sovereignty. And you people saying the roided physique, well, that doesn't you're suddenly making masculinity like a binary threshold. And so now you're transmuting it to say, well, I necessarily crossed the binary threshold of masculine and disciplined by half-assing, by just being one step ahead of people who don't work out at all and are fat, lazy, obese, whatever. You're actually worse than the obese person, because the obese people are actually pathological. They actually have a mental health issue. Now, that's not to say that they don't have agency and sovereignty, and that's not to excuse it, but that is to say is it's not fully born of laziness. It's not fully born of raw, intentional, hedonistic value system laziness. A basic pathology of an obese person is they might have been molested as a child, and so to ward off that sexuality, they make themselves sexually unattractive, linearly more sexually unattractive. That's what that is, actually. Or just the bigness overall wards off the capability to predate upon them because they're too big. So that's just an example there. So you, half-ass mediocrities, are bigger, lazier, hedonistic, pleasure-indulgent, addictive, faggot, little, insufferable, lazy, scumbag pieces of shit than those people will ever be. So this steroids cope, oh, it's about my health. Oh, really? It's about your health? Yet you people fucking indulge in your precious steak under the guise of your fake health, and you drink your precious faggy little fucking alcohol. How about you understand, you're also concerned with your health, physique, and all that. How about you understand that your body is you? Like, that is half of you. That is you that belongs to you. It is you. You operate, you exist through your body. How do you not want to construct it to be the best it could be? How do you not want to make it something meaningful, something excellent? Your muscle tissue belongs to you. That is you. How do you not want to care for that? How do you not want to care for that and construct it and make it something beautiful and make it something what you want? Now, some people will think that their Reddit tier, it's actually hot in here. You notice that I changed studio here. We went downstairs with this, and because that office up there, I have a nice big window here that has a view of the outside, and upstairs it's a half-ass, really tiny window that isn't very bright. I'm a sunlight cell. I'm a Mediterranean sunlight cell. I got to get my sunlight in here too. Isn't it remarkable too? Remember a few weeks ago I tweeted, you know, there was this tweet, oh, this freaking aesthetic, and it's like northern New England-esque or like Washington State-esque, like rainy, dark, miserable, cold. And it's like, aren't you people fucking sunlight bros? Aren't you people all obsessed and compulsed with your sunlight? Can you fucking pick one with this shit? This is the remarkable, this is also sort of related. Sorry, I kind of go off in all different sorts of directions here, but this is also related insofar as this inconsistency implies it's about an image and whatever their dopamine receptors light up on image-wise. Now, they get to wax pseudo-esoteric with this, oh, dark aesthetic. And what does that mean? That's an expression of masculinity because esotericism means intellect. Intellect means status, value, competence. But you also want to be primitive, vital, sunlight bros, all caring about your vitamin D, testosterone. Same thing with fucking Sydney Sweeney. I'm going to make like a TikTok about it. The Sydney Sweeney thing. Which one is it? Is she freaking mid or does she mog the freaking brownoids? Is she a freaking mid? Sydney Sweeney's freaking mid. And she's not attractive, and it's a psyop to say that she's attractive. And then the other guy says, yeah, well, but she's freaking base, dude. She's our white Aryan queen, dude. And then it's, well, you only white coat because she has big boobs, and big boobs is brown. If you have if you like big boobs, you're brown. And then it's, we have to have ecumenical pro-whiteism because she's based. And then, can you people fucking just have any actual tangential, consistent fucking value system? So anyway, the classical cope theory. Let's go over the cope about women too. Women's liking of, women don't like that kind of physique. Oh, so now we're taking what women say seriously? Women say they don't like that physique. Women also say they like nice guys. So suddenly we're fucking taking women seriously. We're only taking them seriously when it conveniently excuses us from getting fucking serious and growing up and subjecting ourselves to the unbearable torture of lifting fucking weights. Like, why even argue this? Is getting big the problem in the United States? Is getting too big the problem? Or is getting too fat or being too mediocre or being too scrawny or weak the problem? How is this even a problem per se? Quote unquote too big. First of all, there's no such thing as too big. Second of all, what you're calling too big is the roided up 250-pound guy, which isn't even too big, that's just bigger. And that's not unhealthy. I mean, with steroids it kind of is essentially, but the big, strong guy that's like one step down from the steroid guy, the scaled down version. If you took the steroid guy and you dragged the corner of the picture to scale it down, you have a big, like cross the threshold of big and strong that you could easily achieve naturally. Why would you not want that? Why would you not pursue that excellence? Why are you even trying to argue this? Like, how is it even wrong per se? And this is what it is. It is, well, it's wrong to place this into our consciousness. They don't want this in their consciousness because it makes them uncomfortable, it makes them feel guilty, and it forces people to make a decision between pleasure and pursuit, an authentic pursuit. Now, the too big thing with women. Why are we taking what women say seriously? Especially because that's not true. Every jacked guy will tell you, like, women can't fucking help themselves with those guys. And let's be specific. So you might have seen my tweet floating around. If you haven't, go to my Twitter, search up the keyword soy boys, put it in quotes just in case the search function is fucking retarded and it'll come up. And it's a study. Now, of course, I'm not a study head, but we can infer rationally quite a few things from this study. So first of all, let's define not like. Not like, crossing the binary, this is what they do too. They say women don't like that, which actually means women don't consider that their top number one preference physique, or at least they're saying so. That doesn't mean it crosses the binary threshold of fundamentally unattractive, akin to being fat or obese. Essentially, women still would hit that if you're a big gym bro. It doesn't cross the threshold of I would not have sex with that because that is unattractive. It only is for them to say that is not their preferred ideal physique. That's not their number one choice. And this is demonstrated in this study. In this study, women rate these physiques, and there's like thin, muscular, and then brawny. So brawny is like the most muscular, and presumably we can think of brawny as perhaps somebody like maybe 20 pounds heavier than me. Maybe I would be like brawny light, I guess. I don't want to give myself too much credit. I don't want to say I'm huge or something, and then somebody light me up. Somebody say you're actually small and mog me or something. But, of course, my friends who I'm thinking of that I know are bigger than me wouldn't do that. But, so, what actually was demonstrated is they still prefer that physique, and they prefer it marginally less than, say, a more athletically big physique. Now, here's the interesting thing, because we're all such based and red-pilled bros. What do we also know about women's attraction? There's pre-selection, and then there's this concept of, is he capable? Is he capable of having sex with significantly more women? And what did we find? We found they rated the brawny guy as like not just most capable of leaving them or most likely to leave them or most likely to bang somebody else or something. It was like significantly higher. So what does that tell you? You could only think that the brawny guy has that much access to sex if you think he's that attractive. Do you get it now? They are presuming that he is capable of having that much sex such that he leaves, and that's presuming he's capable of having more sex than the other guy, which you can only do if you're actually attractive, if you are more attractive than the other look or physique. So why do women say it's unattractive anyway? Because they're coping with their powerlessness to their attraction to that. There's two versions of penis envy. Penis envy really means power envy. They envy men's easier time transcending their emotions and impulses and pleasure principle and feelings. They also envy the power that significantly attractive men have over them because they feel so lustful to that man that sex is no longer belonging to them. They're no longer able to leverage it. So they resent that. So out of resentment, they just say, oh, well, that's not attractive, to tell themselves, to try convincing themselves, well, I'm not attracted to that in the first place, because they're presuming they resent that, they feel powerless to it, and they presume they're going to get rejected. So to protect themselves, they say, well, I'm not attracted to that in the first place, therefore I can't be rejected. Similarly, women have this problem. This is like a Gounet dilemma adjacent, wherein they conflate ego pathology safety within the confines of their trauma structure, within their relational structure, within their low self-esteem structure, with that actual authentic safety barometer for direction of life, for physical safety, and the like. So they use that safety barometer, and since they feel pathologically unsafe, trauma-like unsafe, self-esteem, ego unsafe in the face of this guy who strips them of their sexual agency, and this guy who is attractive, and this guy who is capable of inflicting the wound, a greater wound upon them, their already wounded self-esteem, they go, oh, well, and this is how they feel so strongly about it. Well, I don't feel safe, so therefore it is unattractive. So this is how you understand that people don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and there's no possible explanation or cope or rationalization for the body thing. Similarly, men are coping about attractive women. There was this fucking THL, I think people pronounce it Thultid, this insufferable fucking faggot that keeps perusing around and parading around that, like, attractive women. I don't want to say other women are attractive, I'm married or something, but let's just think about this in this clinical sort of confine here. He's saying attractive women who work out are unattractive because, oh, they work out too much or they're too muscular or something. They're obviously fucking not. Aren't we all so based in knowing that women's inherent biology will make it such that they're never fucking masculine, they're never big or strong? What's more, the women that he selects for this have tiny waists, wide hips, and I hate sort of being that specific because I'm married, but it's clear that there's an ego threat here. But let me be specific. This guy feels really strongly that his sort of cope with this is airtight because he whips up these pseudo studies and all that, and it's like, yeah, those are about women who take PEDs and bodybuild. Not the same thing as gym girlies with fat asses. So that's number one. Number two, he feels fervently that this is necessarily masculine because he compares it to himself. He says, well, I am the binary threshold of man, and this woman works out more than me. These women are more disciplined. They are more capable, right? He finds that threatening to his masculinity because they are more disciplined. They don't answer to their feelings and pleasures like he does. So he finds that threatening. So he has to delegitimize that. And so he does so because, well, they're linearly more masculine than me in this context or in behaving this way, but I am masculine. I am male. I cross the binary threshold of male. He crosses the binary threshold of male, but their behavior is more masculine. Therefore, it's necessarily unattractively masculine. And this is how he delegitimizes that. And this is how he tries to speak into the world that they speak into the world the illegitimacy of women working out that way such that he doesn't have to feel so guilty and threatened by the existence of it. And it's like, this isn't they're masculine. This is actually, you're just such a giant pussy that they're more masculine than you. But they do not cross the binary threshold of masculine for working out and for getting sort of, muscular. Any man who has any seriousness in the gym knows that women are still pipsqueaks. Even the strongest un-PED enhanced woman will feel overjoyed at deadlifting 225 for reps. 225 for reps is their 405 for reps. So, look. Remember being right-wing. Remember starting up being right-wing. What was it about? It was about that discipline. It was about that masculinity. My phrase, eyes on the prize, finding your fulfillment, means you cannot escape yourself. You cannot escape your man. You want to get big. You want to get rich. You will always want those things. You will always feel it in your spirituality, in your soul, to try for those things. And remarkably, you're going to live with guilt otherwise, not for not achieving those things, but not for not trying. You will never feel guilty. You will never feel beside yourself. You will never need to live in this endless misery and low self-esteem of rationalizing if you just at least put forth the effort. Seriously. and challenge yourself. You don't have anything fucking better to do than to get big. Oh, there's no utility. The utility is exercising your sovereignty. The utility is keeping your promises to yourself. The utility is belonging to yourself instead of your impulses. What's more, value the thing in and of itself. The action of lifting weights is fun, is cool to me. To feel my muscles work, to watch them work is cool, is something I value. Value that. Stop fucking valuing feeling good. Feeling good is not necessarily good. Feeling good does nothing for you. Feeling good, crossing the binary threshold of valuing that is fundamentally no different than the lazy libtard, the indulgent, promiscuous libtard. Like, what are you here for? What do you want? Getting big is the only fucking answer. Getting sexed up physique is the only fucking answer. You do not, and it's not even that fucking unpleasant or that hard. People, this is the other cope. Oh, I have other things in life. Oh, I can't spend all day on this. Dude, I work out like an hour and a half, 2 hours a day. I'm not really all that super vigilant about what I eat specifically. That doesn't mean I pig out, but that means that I'm not being a neurotic freak about fucking seed oils and microplastics. I just eat. I just eat what is, like, I guess, quote unquote, natural. Natural meaning less packaging, the better. Less manufacturing, the better. That's all the fuck it is, dude. Oh, I have other pursuits. Oh, you mean like all the books you don't read? All the skills you don't develop? You have one fucking answer. You have no choice. Oh, time. I have the same 24 hours a day that you do. Like, do we even still have to do this seriously in 2025? What else? Oh, steroids. Yeah, steroids doesn't mean you're excused from lifting 6-7 times a week, doing serious workouts, doing several exercises for one muscle, not this copy fucking compound shit. Oh, rest is the vital part of recovery, another cope. Yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, the problem specifically is fucking resting too much. What's a bigger problem, working out too much or resting too much? Oh, well, I'm manly in this way. Oh, okay. Well, you're actually not manly in any way because you still do not answer to yourself. I'm manly in this externalized, arbitrarily assigned metric, tangible. Oh, I make money. Oh, okay. Well, you know what you don't do? Fucking get up off your ass and challenge yourself. Making money is not the hard work bro type thing that people think it is anymore. It's not even physically challenging anymore. There's no challenge to that. There's no masculinity to that. It's only masculine in the confines of this stupid hunter-gatherer thing and whether or not fucking women like you. So, I think I'm running out of steam here. Let's see. Let me think of what else. I didn't have a chance to write down notes to keep track of my ideas on this, so that is why and how I spoke. I mean, I always speak extemporaneously, but that is why and how I feel. I'm feeling like there's something more. There's something else I wanted to say to this, but perhaps you'll see it. Perhaps I'll just get back into my groove when I'm not writing super long articles about the porn stuff. Get back into the rhythm of some daily notes and daily reminders for the show here. So I'll try to think of one more final thought here. Final thought, help me out. If you're in the live stream and you want to join in on the space, maybe you can help me out here. I got the space up and running. I saw Marcus commented. Good to see him here. He said banger titles. That's kind of funny. That's pretty funny, actually, right? Because I made an International Coat Month and other extemporaneous musings. So if you're in on the live stream, if you have some thoughts, feel free to jump in on the space. And in the meantime, I'll try to keep you entertained Remember, coaching on this stuff, marchesemethods.com for one-on-one coaching. You could do 1 session or 4 sessions up front for a discount. Marchesemethods at proton.me for my $5 a month Discord, in which you get to talk to me all day, every day to get some help, answers, thoughts. Entropystream.live. I got to set that up. I think that's just like broken. I got to set up an actual donate. Maybe I'll just do like buy me a coffee or something. It feels so undignified to use something like that. Essentially just ask for money in that way. What else? I hate saying, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, because then it's like, okay, when? You know, can you stop being such a lazy talking all this shit about being lazy and then being a lazy Mediterranean? But I do want to set up merchandise. I think I could do it fairly quickly and easily because there's print-on-demand services. So some people have been asking me for that hoodie that I wear, the Marchese Methods hoodie. And maybe I'll just design some other merchandise with the logo. There's that. I also have a huge project I'm working on. It's super top secret, I can't say, but I got invited to co-found a major project that is going to be awesome. It is going to be a panacea to many problems. It's a good idea. It is a genius idea that we're all going to collaborate on. And I'm working with some real good people, some real professionals, some real high IQ, 5,000 IQ, competent-based people on that. And we are going to launch that fairly soon, actually. We're going to get it up and running fairly soon. We have hired all the appropriate teams, the appropriate things like legal and the other skill sets that we need that are outside our skill sets, of course. So, alrighty, I think that is everything for our show. Look, eyes on the prize, find your fulfillment. You have no fucking choice. Get big. What else are you going to do? Stop coping. Stop answering to your pleasure principle. Stop trying to have it both ways. You can either be comfortable and pleased and miserable and hating yourself, or uncomfortable, displeased, but overjoyed because you do things. You actually do serious things transcendental to your pleasures. Get big because you value your body, you value your physique, you value weightlifting in and of itself, and you value sovereignty. You want to feel like a man, you want to be a man, you have to have sovereignty. Free will, agency, discipline. You have to answer to yourself. You have to insubordinate your feelings. You have to be who you truly want to be. That is what it means to be resilient. That is what it means to be emotionally, physically resilient. That is what it means to be a man. So, get fucking big, one fucking answer. Eyes on the prize, finding your fulfillment. Thank you so much. I will see you next time for Marchese Daily. I think I will be back tomorrow. So until then, I will see you tomorrow.